In this series, we have discussed how group decision-making is like building a house. If decisions are made based on faulty conclusions, the outcome is compromised. A common source of faulty conclusions are logical fallacies, which occur when a person supports a position with misleading, flawed, or outright false argumentation. In our last video, we discussed the emotional and personal incredulity fallacies. These occur when someone supports a position by manipulating the emotions of others, or when one argues that the complexity of something negates its viability. An example was given of Bob, who supported increased observations at his facility by telling his coworker Billy,
"You've met our employees' children. Do you want to be the one telling them their mom or daddy died because your supervisors were too busy to take safety seriously?"
In this example, Bob commits an emotional fallacy by using the emotions of Billy to manipulate his preferred outcome, namely increased observations. Bob's statement puts pressure on Billy that if she doesn't side with Bob, she will face negative emotional consequences, having to tell children their parents died and she was to blame. The negative emotional consequences brought up by Bob may overshadow and consequently block discussion of additional options to address safety concerns at the facility. Because of this pressure, the better preventative measure, fixing the concrete, does not get discussed. For example, if the increased injuries were caused by deteriorating pavement leading to ankle twists, it may be a better approach to fix the pavement rather than increase observations. However, Bob's statement shuts down the conversation by putting undue pressure on Billy to side with him. Using the pavement example, perhaps the most serious injuries are scraped knees and ankle sprains. Bob's statement, which suggests deadly consequences for not doing additional observations, is an exaggeration made for the purpose of winning an argument. Bonus points if you picked up on the straw man fallacy and false A-B fallacy in Bob's argument as well. Billy committed the personal incredulity fallacy when she stated,
"I don't understand what observations have to do with reducing injuries anyway. The research you cited is too complex for anyone at this terminal to follow. Plus, it's 100 pages long. Who has time to read a study like that?"
Just because the research is long or complex doesn't mean it isn't valid. Further, her lack of understanding does not prove that increased safety observations do not improve safety. Instead of her response, Billy could have expressed her concerns as follows.
"Can you better explain the connection between increased safety observations and improved safety? Are there other options to improve safety, like asking our landlord to address the condition of our pavement? Also, thank you for the research you provided. Could you give a high-level summary of the report since this is a lot of material to digest?"
This week, we will discuss a new fallacy. Before we define this fallacy, see if you can spot it in the discussion on whether to purchase software. Jack supports his position not to purchase the software by stating,
"If you give Jane the green light to purchase this new software, every other department will want to start purchasing new software too."
Do you spot the problem with this argument? If you guessed the slippery slope fallacy, you would be correct. The slippery slope fallacy occurs when a person argues that by allowing something to happen, it will cause a chain reaction of negative future events, and when there is no direct evidence that the negative future events will actually occur. In other words, A should not be allowed in order to prevent B through Z happening at some future date, when there is no way to prove B through Z will occur if A happens. In Jack's response, he supports his position of passing on the software by stating it would open the floodgates for other departments to ask for new software as well. This is problematic because, 1, it is not directly relevant to this particular software purchase, including whether there will be an adequate return on investment. 2, there is no proof that other departments will request software purchases if Jane's purchase is approved. And 3, there is no reason to believe additional software requests could not be evaluated case by case with the ability to decline purchases that are not justified. Once again, Jack would provide more valuable feedback if he focused on the functionality of the software or the lack of return on investment rather than hypothetical future requests. Now let's turn to our other team discussion. Again, Bob wants to increase the number of observations in order to improve safety. Billy is concerned,
"Our staff is already working around the clock as is. It is not realistic to put an additional burden on them."
Billy further adds,
"If I allow you to increase the number of safety observations that my supervisors are performing, everyone is going to come to me and ask me to add more work to my team's plates."
Is Billy's argument valid? And if not, How could she reframe it to address her concerns without committing the slippery slope fallacy? In our next episode, we will hear how Bob and Billy can avoid the slippery slope fallacy. Then, we will discuss a new fallacy, the appeal to authority fallacy. Until next time, build well.